There is a humongous background to the word history. It always seems to stay with you, whether you're a person, a brand, anything. History is what's going to create your future. I say that because when I was playing Division 2, I was always extremely negative about the game because I had so much passion for the game at the time. And then I just noticed that history kept repeating itself. The developers never put time and effort into what they were actually doing. And if you look at the game now, it's in a stale form. No one's really playing it. There are still some players, but it's nowhere near thriving as much as it used to be closer to launch. Now, I found out recently that Anthem is going to get a massive overhaul. They're going to try and completely overhaul the game. It's basically going to be an Anthem 2.0. I'm making this video because ever since the beginning of the game, just before the game even, like with betas and stuff, I have always backed this game, and that's not going to change now. There have been so many people doing negative reviews, it's just had a lot of bad press. Yes, the developers are partly at fault, even though it's not all their fault. It's the people that were higher up, not giving clear instructions, and just fabricating everything to just make it harder for the developers to do their work. They said that it took 7 years to develop the game. What they didn't say is 5 years of that was pre-production. They didn't know anything about the game. The developers literally had nothing to work on. And then the game comes out, it is lacking content. They made a mission intentionally to hold players back so that it felt like a longer story. But now we're coming to the end of 2019, and we hear that they're completely overhauling the game. So I'm going to explain why I think it's a mistake, and I don't think it's going to change how the community feel about the game. So, after the initial release of Anthem, it had so much bad press that the player base drastically dropped off. Like, I think it was probably 95% plus disappeared from the game. There was only a set amount, pretty much same as Division 2. You've just got like the hardcore fans and the small amount of players that actually enjoyed it, me being one of those players. So they're always going to struggle to maintain players no matter what they do because of their history. Then you have a lot of the developers that were working on the game. They've actually left Bioware. So there's going to be new developers working on the game from now on. And all of this has two sides. Like, I've learned from my past doing videos on Division 2 that yes, negativity spreads a lot faster, but at the same time, because it's negative, it's going to have a negative effect. So what I've been doing for the last couple of months or so, and what I'm going to be doing for the future, is if I do have a problem with a game, if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to steer clear of it. I will make videos to let you guys know, but I'm not going to do it in the form of just being negative. I'll give opinions on what I think could be done, and I'll try giving feedback instead of it just being hate, and instead of it just being a pure rant, it will be discussions and that sort of thing. So, bringing in new developers, which is what they've had to do. So far, we haven't had much content on the game. It's been out for 9 months now, and there's been a new stronghold. We've had the cataclysms. They've done some general updates and stuff, brought some new weapons and gear and stuff into the game. But in terms of an overhaul, it could make the game worse, it could make it better. I've also heard from the news that they could possibly be completely rebranding the game. And if they change the name of it, there's a possibility, I don't know how big the possibility is, but there is a possibility that they would have to start selling the game as a new game, like a brand new game. If they do that, and no matter what they do pretty much, a lot of players will not buy it because of the history of development, because everyone knows that they've slacked. They indefinitely cancelled their roadmap twice. I think they did it twice, or they at least did it once, and then they said the roadmap's back on track, and then cancelled it again. And the development over the course of the last 9 months has been an absolute shambles. So selling it as a new game will not work. Trying to get more players to buy it will not work. What they need to do is try and find ways to make the game thrive again, to bring players back that have already experienced it, players that were interested. If they don't sell it as a brand new game, you can get it on sale. I think some websites, even though it's dodgy, the money doesn't go directly to the devs, I think you can pick the game up for like a tenner. Exactly the same as what's happened with Sonic the movie. It's going to cost them so much money to rework all of the stuff. I've heard that they're changing a load of the missions. They're actually going to be, because in its current state, the whole world of Anthem, the entire free roam area, is all part of one sort of set of coding. I've heard in videos that they want to be separating the regions so that if a bug happens in the game, like if a bug is found, if someone encounters something going wrong with the game, if the regions are separated, it would make it easier to go through that specific region and fix the bugs. Instead of having to look through all of the coding for one big map, it will just be smaller sections that they have to go through to find the bugs and fix them, which could be good, but for the amount of money that's going to cost, it's not efficient, and I don't think in any way, shape or form it'd be beneficial. Not only that, but if they do all of this overhauling and they keep the exact same map, the same gear and everything, people aren't going to be interested. Because there could be a small audience of players that haven't played yet that want to test the game out for what it's become. But then you think back to the players that have played since launch, they spent a good few hours until they got bored. They're not going to be interested because there's nothing new for them to explore. It's just been updated so that it runs a bit smoother. So a couple of things I personally think the developers should do. And I want you guys to start discussions in the comments and talk about all of this because I love Anthem. It took me about 200 hours of gameplay until I started to get bored because I run out of content. And even though there was a hell of a lot of bugs at launch, a lot of them are gone. But the only reason I don't play often now is because the Cataclysm doesn't really hold much attention, especially playing with randoms, because a lot of the players just go off and do their own thing. They don't follow the events in order. And personally, I don't think there's enough content in the Cataclysm to keep people's attention. So what I think they should do, instead of doing the complete overhaul and making the Anthem 2.0, I think they should start to release new content faster, even if it's just, oh, we have a new gun coming in 2 weeks, we have some new gear pieces. They should do things like that, and they should focus on content that's going to be enjoyable. Bring in some new missions, bring in a new stronghold every now and then, because we've only had, since the launch of the game, one additional stronghold. And I'm not a developer, I don't know how hard it is to work on this stuff, but in 9 months I really think they could have brought in 2 new strongholds. At least 2 new, because there's only been one, the Sunken Cell, and it was just a lot of repetition. There was like 1 or 2 puzzles, we've already seen them puzzles before, so it got boring incredibly quick. Although the boss fight in that, the final boss in the Sunken Cell, was a lot of fun. So what they need to do is produce content faster, without overworking the developers, and they need to make it more enjoyable. Also, the biggest complaint about this game for a long time was the RNG and getting loot drops. They've slowly started to work on it, but I personally don't think it's enough still because legendaries are so rare to find, and I understand it's legendary, it's the top tier of weapons or gear, it needs to be tough to find, but they maybe need to throw an event into the game where, like, for an entire week you have a double chance of getting a legendary drop. They need to make it a lot more enjoyable to obtain new gear, and the content they think of releasing, they need to make it more fun. I don't care if the game stays like this or if it gets overhauled, because as long as there's new stuff coming into it, I will still play because the game is fun. And when I say bring new content in and bring it in faster, I explained like maybe a new gun every 2 weeks or something. What they should do is, or something they could do even, is maybe say, oh, we apologise for all the mess ups that have happened since the launch of the game. We are dedicated, we are committed to making this game a much more enjoyable experience. So what we're going to do, free of charge, is whack out some DLC. We're going to bring a 5th Javelin into the game, so that you have something brand new to work on. We're going to bring out 8 new guns, and these are going to be obtainable by free play, strongholds, missions. You're not just going to be forced to do one event, one activity, in order to get these weapons. You don't have to save up minor crystals. They've gone into the general loot pools, so there is 8 new weapons. Alongside that, we've released 4 new pieces of gear for each of the gear slots available in the game. And then, just to mix things up even further, they could bring out a few new inscriptions and have a look through the data, see which ones were being used and which ones wasn't, if that's available as a resource, and maybe remove some old inscriptions that nobody was using and bring in some more exciting ones. I honestly believe this game has potential. Like, they've got such a solid foundation. It's taken them a while to get to this stage, but they have a good enough foundation to just build upon that instead of reworking absolutely everything in the game, or a lot of the big stuff in the game that's going to cost money, going to take time, because we don't know when this overhaul's coming. It could be within the next 6 months, it could be in a year's time. There's going to be newer, bigger, better games out. Like in about a year from now, well, possibly even less than a year, we're going to have brand new consoles. They need to do something, and they need to do it fast in order to bring the player base back. And by reworking a lot of the big stuff in the game, I don't think that's going to work. I would love for them to just release some new content, give us some fun stuff to do in the game, and take it from there. Actually ask the community what they want, instead of just starting work on random things, and then finding out a few months later that it was completely pointless, you wasted money, wasted time, and then it's back to square one. So as I said, start discussions and stuff in the comments. I'm interested to know what your thoughts are. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.